It's that time where we talk about AlgoFest. All right, this is interview number 7 or 8 today. I've got 3 more to go on the AlgoFest marathon, but this is it. This is prime time AlgoFest. We've got yldy here. I am, of course, the real Monty Allen, and I am your crypto nerd. All right, folks. So we've got the yldy team here in-house, and we've got pages and pages of questions that the Algonauts community has put together here for us. So I'm going to go through probably 2 or 3 of these off the sheet here, and then I think we're probably going to get some from the chat because there's been some news lately that has come out that we want to talk about and get out there and figure out what's the newest news. So let's just jump into it, okay? And you tell me who's the best one to answer this. So first question, could you please give us a rundown on what your project is and a little background on the team? Are there any developments you guys are excited for and you would like to announce? So right out of the gate, give us a little background and what's the newest news? Spill the tea.
So I'll answer that, Aaron, and then you might want to talk about some of the NFT stuff that we just launched. So rundown on who we are. We're the kind of conceived ourselves as the first DeFi project for Algorand. What that means is we've built out, some of the foundational smart contracts for the ecosystem to allow for staking, swapping, pooling, and, we've built out from that interesting, use cases in terms of the no loss prize game, and more recently the addition to that with the NFT prize games. Mm-hmm. Our kind of critical or core mission when we started, was to build an ecosystem that would allow for frictionless cross-chain liquidity. It always sort of startled us that there had been so little DeFi development on Algorand. The team, Aaron, and the other devs and I, all have a long history in crypto. And, mid last year or a bit earlier, when, the DeFi summer was really well underway, we were looking across the market and it was astounding that there was just still very little that was being done on Algorand. And so, we had ideas on what we wanted to build. And we're very fortunate to sort of link up with the guys at Borderless and, the Algorand Foundation, who had just announced, that they were doing an accelerator, the Asia Algorand Accelerator, later in the year, end of last year. So we pitched and joined that and have been sort of going on this mission, ever since to really understand, what are the core building blocks that are needed to allow for a really thriving DeFi and more generally a thriving, crypto, decentralized crypto ecosystem on Algorand. And so, we've been very fortunate to have launched, this year and been well supported by the community. I think, there's many of your watchers that will be well aware of the first staking pools that we created, the cross-chain bridge we created, the first, IDO, for an ASA token, the sort of, the interest, the overwhelming interest. I think this morning we sort of just hit 95 million TVL. So like this insane amount of interest in a very short amount of time in wanting to use our products. I think we've maybe almost hit 1 million transactions as well, since we started 14 weeks ago. So, we've been the beneficiaries of being able to be first, being able to build great audited tech, to being able to listen and hear what the community wants, to sort of see what the latent feeling of where the excitement is. And we've really tried our very best to tap into that, to really understand, what Algorand means to users, to the folks watching, and how they are very, quite different to, other ecosystems and quite happily so. And, we sort of see that in the wonderful personalities that sort of come out, when you sort of see that come out in the kind of dynamic that yldy, the company, has with the community and the sort of stuff that we get to build with them. So the most recent thing obviously is the NFT prize games, which kind of came out of the community. There's folks out there that were building stuff that creating stuff that was related to the flamingos that kind of struck a chord. And
I love the yodelings.
Those things have been going crazy. And so it would have been we were very lucky to be able to be fast-footed and to be able to capture that and bring those kind of products or that type of energy into our into our company. And we've been thrilled to be able to do it, and looking forward to doing more. I'm sure Aaron might have a few things to say about the tech and where that's going. But the only other thing I'd say, which you did say the news about, and I'm sure there'll be questions coming for it, is just the announcement with MXC, to be a bit more, to further integrate our goal of having, this world of frictionless cross-chain liquidity, being able to now offer a really easy pathway for any project that's launching to launch with us, distribute through the pools, build out, fun features for their community, prize games, NFTs, etc. And then, have a guaranteed pathway to a listing or liquidity after that as well. And so, that's something I'd love to go into in, as the questions unfold. But that definitely is one of the new announcements that we're excited about. Aaron, you might want to just fill out some of the other things, some of the core tech, and, where that's going.
Yeah, no, thanks, Seb. You did a great job answering the previous questions. Not a whole lot more to say. I mean, it's just been an absolutely phenomenal experience since we launched just over 2 months ago. Like last I checked, which was last night, where we just cracked over 700,000 transactions with our main escrow, and I think we're getting close to $100 million USD TVL, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And even just within the last 24 hours after releasing this new NFT prize game, basically we've had 2,500 entrants, and basically a third of the current staking pool, basically, which is 500 million, just over 500 million yldy tokens, have elected to enter into this NFT round. So the response from the community around the tech has been absolutely phenomenal. In terms of everything that we're building as well, obviously, we're quite a close-knit team. We're iterating very fast. We love the community feedback. So, anything that the community finds or any suggestions or improvements, we love taking that sort of stuff on board. So, it's very exciting, especially in the near future, as I'm sure many of these future questions will be talking about, where we're going to be talking about bug bounty programs and all those other ways of integrating the community more into the development cycle of the product itself. But so far, the experience has just been, completely great, despite the fact that, all we're doing really is just releasing the product, and then the community just gets to play with it on the day pretty much. And the feedback's been great.
I've got a question here. So you brought up the timeline here. And before we talk about the future, which we're definitely going to do, let's talk about the past a little bit, because 14 weeks ago you launched. And really, Seb, you're talking about when you got financing, and that wasn't even that long ago. I'm not even sure if it's been an entire year since you've had that conversation, maybe. But in the grand scheme of things, right, it's moved incredibly fast. So can you talk to us about how have you been able to do this in such a compact amount of time? And Aaron and I were talking before we went live, like he's just like, we just don't sleep, mate. And that's my best Australian accent there. but I mean, are you guys just sleeping at their desks? I mean, have you had to outsource more? What creative things have you done to get the job done? And then last, I want to tag on something there, because I just noticed that, I think it was yesterday, that you were talking about the TVL, but TVL for yldy outpaced TVL for ALGO briefly. I don't know if that was yesterday. And was that a milestone for you guys internally? I mean, were you guys like,
the flippening?
The flippening, yeah. So, I mean, that was a moment, right?
Yeah, it was. No, that was a big moment. We shared that internally. I think that's, caught us by surprise. I think this whole year, we knew that we wanted to build great tech, and we knew that there was a community and an ecosystem that was crying out for it. But that kind of intuition and feedback that you can get from speaking to as many people as you can speak to in the 3 or 4 months when we were sort of really kind of ideating on the core product, you still don't have you kind of hope that the thing you build would be is going to be used and appreciated, and people are going to want to demonstrate that by putting their crypto into it, or talking about it, or joining and tweeting about it, or whatever that case is. So we always wanted to build a product that would allow for this type of scale, but to say that if you had asked us the week prior to launch and to look forward 3 months after launch if we thought we would be where we are today, we even in our wildest dreams we really wouldn't have have contemplated where we could get to, and so I think that just speaks to the energy and the interest and the just the real desire for people within our brand to see products built for this ecosystem. And this community is is a very special part of the world to building, or has a special user group to building things with and for. But yeah, I mean, if you had asked us, at the beginning of the year when we started, if we'd be here now, absolutely not. We're fortunate, I would guess. I think Aaron and the rest of the dev team is exceedingly modest. And I think they have spent years building things in blockchain. They've spent years creating businesses and smart contracts and everything for other organizations. They've seen so many things, with companies they worked with previously work and fail. They've, been tinkering and building basically, I suspect, since long before they started, long before they started uni. But, they're, in their professional careers have certainly always, been kept a very firm eye on what they could be doing in crypto and really looking and learning lessons there. And so, we're the beneficiaries. yldy is the beneficiary of, a tech team that has a really great depth of experience. And so that allows us to be able to, build at scale. Like we've seen projects from, and the rest of the ecosystem, certainly has projects that have said they're going to do stuff on our brand, have been quite flashy about it. Super well-funded teams, have come and explored the ecosystem and realized that it's actually quite a technical, relative to where, those teams have come from. It's quite a technical undertaking. And so we've seen a number of proposed partnerships, of projects wanting to build into our brand sort of be delayed or, walked back or whatever that might be. And so, that speaks to the differences, in mindset that exist in, builder communities on other protocols that, are happy to move as soon as there's, happy to move as soon as there's, good technical, good repos and good libraries and whatever else that will allow the build process to be a lot easier. We just elected to go and build that stuff ourselves. And I think, going through that process has sort of set us up to be able to, allow and speed up the onboarding for other projects into this ecosystem, and to be able to, build out with companies like MXE and others, that want to see this ecosystem succeed and, are really looking for partners like us that, have done the hard yards, have built the core tech, and now can allow for, others to come in and utilize it in a much more straightforward way. I think, and then speaking just more broadly to the ecosystem, it's a great time now as well. There's the upgrades happening with TEAL, are tremendous, and, that type of thing will allow for easier onboarding and building for other projects too. So, we've labored away and worked extremely hard to get to where we are now. There hasn't been a lot of sleep. I think you can sort of see that in everyone's eyes. I think if you look at, when Aaron and I were pitching, in December, there was a lot less bags under our eyes, but that's just the nature of the beast, and happily so. But yeah, I mean, we're getting like some amazing inbound talent requests now. We get phenomenal devs and business executives reach out wanting to find ways to work with us to join the team.
That's the right kind of attention, right?
Pardon me?
That's the right kind of attention you want.
Yeah, precisely. Like that's the stuff that will allow us to sort of scale more, right? And so we're going through this process now of thinking about, well, we've had a big picture in mind this whole time, and now it's a lot closer for us to be able to action those realities. To be able to build out big and exciting things that will continue to matter, for many years to come. And so, we're super excited to see,
Well, let's talk about those big things. So your roadmap, right? Does that mean that you are on pace or moving faster than any of the items on your roadmap, or is any of that going to come to fruition quicker now that you've gotten, you've got the ability to possibly scale faster?
Yeah, I mean, I think there will be aspects to it that will allow us to speed up with partners. So we can have strategic partners that will allow for outcomes for the users to be achieved quicker, in a quicker manner. And I'll speak to MXC to sort of go into a bit more detail of what that means. But at the same time, that roadmap is already pretty ambitious. And there are certain I would say that there are certain dependencies that we are reliant upon, like any other project, reliant upon third parties. So we might have tech built, for example, for say some of the multi-staking contracts that we're doing with the TEAL 4 to allow for multi-partner pools and auto compounding and all sorts of features that are that are more native, that look and feel a lot like what you would get if you were playing with PancakeSwap, for example.
Sure.
We can build those features out, but we still won't release anything until we've entirely satisfied that third parties have ordered it and ordered it well. And so we spend a lot of time and money engaging auditors and putting ourselves in queues to get audited. But it is such a wonderfully busy market that that's one of the dependencies that's sort of out of our control. So that's a tech build. That's the tech outcome for us. We will always be methodical and always be extremely kind of security orientated in how we build. But in terms of the user experience and in terms of some of those roadmap items that speak to things that will allow users to have a more to be able to do more DeFi related stuff, to be able to do more things on our grant. We think that some of the initiatives that we're undertaking with strategic partners get us there faster. And the MXC kind of, partnership is one great example of that. We've always talked about the need to have, this fully integrated, liquidity market, on our grant. Like you want to be able to, have a launch pad. You want projects to be able to be vetted by a community. People be able to pick and choose what they, what projects they think work.
Mm-hmm.
Those projects then want to have a place where they can distribute those tokens out to their users, and then also do pools and farming, and then after that have a place where they can actually get listed, that people can continue to buy more of those tokens to then use the products that these projects have built for those tokens to be used in. The PancakeSwap model or these kind of Binance launch pool style models, like
Sure.
Those work beautifully in other ecosystems, and we don't have that here yet. But we do now. Like we now have the potential to do that with partners like MXC that provide that back-end, listing for any ASA token,
Mm-hmm.
and on our side to be able to provide an area where people can launch, stake, pool, farm, and then eventually list. And so we'll sort of go into a lot more detail in blogs and, with MXC about what specifically that means. But basically it means that, any project now that is looking to build, on our grant and launch an ASA token that, has a purpose to be used on a platform or whatever, we can go through a process with them to launch them and then list it. And one of the things we sort of mentioned is this sort of sense of the launch pad. Like, we're the fortunate beneficiaries to, have a number of our investors have, or the VCs that we partner with, to be extremely interested in seeing other projects sort of follow our same path. And so, there's talk amongst that cohort of VC partners, to have some sort of even more directed DeFi related fund that would support projects to go through that. So you would start
kind of a feeder fund type of a deal.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's something we can speed up, right? Because there's strategic partners that allow us to do that. And that comes back to your question, is there going to be, parts of our roadmap that are going to come faster? And they are, because, people now see that, Algorand has projects that work and matter in it, and and are paying more attention and wanting to do more there. So, we're going to do as much as we can to, increase the value of that ecosystem and everyone wanting to build, alongside us.
I love the fact that you could have done something like this yourself, but it would have taken you an incredible amount of time. And instead, what you did is you found a partner who already had this platform, and you could kind of bolt it on and combine it, and it's better for both of you, honestly. And so it's a win-win for everyone. What I'm curious about is, how long was that deal in the works? How long have you been talking about that before the announcement came out? How fast does that kind of stuff happen behind the scenes?
Everything takes time, right? I think one of the great things you've talked about us launching in a year, and it was that's a very short amount of time. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people still think that we sort of just pulled some smart contracts and launched 15 weeks ago. Weren't around 16 weeks ago, and it's to the extent you can apply the analogy that is used readily in tech to crypto. It's that an overnight success takes happens over many years. Mm-hmm. For us it's been a year, but it's been a year of intense hard work, and then it's been years of careers for Aaron and the team and Simon and myself, working in the industry to really kind of fine tune what the business that we wanted to launch, what that would look like. And so the same goes with partnerships, right? You need to go through a process of discussing and vetting and all of that. Obviously, MXC has been extremely supportive of us from an early stage. They actually were the first centralized exchange to list us and an ASA DeFi token anywhere. And right. So we've been in discussions with MXC and other core parts of the kind of ecosystem to I guess be a case study, or to be like a pilot to sort of see what it looks like for a DeFi project on Algorand, and if we represent the wider community to folks like MX who've not dealt with Algorand much before. If we're to sort of be doing something, if they look at us and go, if we're to do something with them and the wider Algorand ecosystem, let's make sure it works. And so they've put the fine, tooth comb over us. They've been really looking at, how we perform, how our team is, whether their communities like what we do, all sorts of things like that. And fortunately, it's been as we've seen, it's been there's been the community exists, the market's there for projects on our ground. So, that's the thing. It's been in the works for a while, and they've been vetting us, from the point of pre-listing to now, and they're obviously thrilled with how everything's been going. They're thrilled with the team, with the tech, and I can't do more.
Excellent. All right, a lot of questions about NFTs. And you have expressed some interest in working with NFTs, but at one point you said, hey, we need some kind of standardized NFT format. Are we close to that? How do you feel about that? Obviously, you've got, the Stitch Bob stuff on there. We've got some NFT giveaways, but not a marketplace. And we're not, not all the things that you want to do. And, the community is wondering, hey, are we going to wrap some NFTs from ETH? Do you still have plans for that? How talk to us about NFTs and yldy.
Yeah, I'll sketch out how we see that playing, and then Aaron, I would love for you to be able to just talk a little bit about, what the standard is, and where where that's going from our point of view with regard to conversations we're having across the ecosystem. But I mean, our worldview is that, you know, there is like DeFi or any kind of you know, interesting product development that's happening outside of Algorand. You know, it warrants, you know, there's no reason why we shouldn't have that on Algorand. You know, I think you can see, like, you know, I'm sure Stitchbob's sort of gone through the numbers already. You know, they've had a tremendous you know, had a tremendous run in the last few weeks in terms of aftermarket sales and things like that. And so you can see that there's a great demand for NFTs, for trading, for creating, for expression, you know, and whatnot on Algorand. You know, and our partners see that as well. Like, that's part of the reason why we've been dealing with esports and gaming teams, is that, you know, their audiences are similar to Algorand's. You know, they're digital native, you know, early adopters. You know, they love the way of that this art and the NFT creations can bring communities closer together and make that more meaningful. But there's still, you know, in terms of what that looks like in, you know, the long term, we still need a standard. Like, Algorand still needs to develop a standard. But as soon as they do, you know, we would be, you know, super keen to, you know, integrate that into all of the, you know, into the worldview we see. You know, and that's one where there is an OpenSea type platform, you know, where you have, you know, the capability to do, you know, all sorts of interesting things with NFTs, whether it's, you know, royalties or whether it's, you know, sort of art grants and funds that are connected to the NFTs. Like, there's quite a lot of, you know, business opportunities that you are seeing companies like Visa, you know, looking to do in the Ethereum ecosystem, that there is no reason why they shouldn't be happening on Algorand, and that they
anything they can do, we can do better.
Yeah, precisely, right. That's like, you know, that basically should be the catch cry of AlgoFest, right?
Yeah.
So like, that has to happen, but there are some things that need to happen, you know, across the ecosystem first. And Aaron, maybe you want to just shed a bit of light on that, mate.
All right, we'll put Aaron up on the stage here, and then we're going to hit you with some questions about Teal 4 too.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, so yeah, with regards to NFTs, like, obviously there was a lot of buzz and a lot of interest around that for Algorand, and, you know, basically you could do an NFT in a somewhat limited capacity currently. Basically, you just mint just one of the token, and, you know, attach, you know, probably whatever the image is to the URL. But it was quite a limited, not like a true NFT like you would see typically on Ethereum. But as of recently, I think it was of 2 days ago, a PR just closed or a proposal just closed called ARC 0003, proposed by Fabrice, which is actually going to start introducing some, I guess, more standardized attributes for the ASA assets to be able to make them NFTs. So you can have, like, you know, full NFTs, fractional NFTs, all a bunch of other stuff. And from what I understand from this proposal, it's just basically allowing, upon the creation of the token, just being able to add some more data as like a JSON object in the note, and basically appending that permanently to the data of the object. But I'm no expert on that just yet. I'm keen to see, you know, where that's heading. I think my last comment on that in the Discord channel, which is asking Fabrice directly, you know, when's all this stuff going to be coming out? Because I'm keen and interested to, you know, start looking at it and see how we can start to work with it on our platform as of now. But yeah, there's a lot of buzz around NFTs, and it looks like, you know, Algorand is seeing this and they are responding in kind. They are, you know, taking feedback from the community and seeing what they want to, you know, be able to append to these, you know, to these ASA assets. So, in terms of a technical future, me personally, I'm keen to see what's going to be coming next. But yeah, as of right now, it's still kind of up in the air.
All right. Well, hopefully that comes to fruition here pretty soon. And I would be remiss. I saw Tim P out in the audience somewhere, and you got to go check out his Ling Lings. So go check out the Ling Lings. Right.
We love them.
Right?
We got we use that internally. One of the tumbling eggs with the head popped up. So big fans.
Awesome.
So I'd also say the last thing you did ask about whether we're going to do anything with I would say there's inbound requests from big ETH communities looking to do NFT drops with us. Like people love the NFT lottery idea. When they see, like as Aaron said, there's like 500 million yieldly that's been positive. It's like $30 million, dollars worth of yieldly sitting there to win a yieldling.
Yeah.
So that people are paying attention to that on the ETH side. I know we've had inbound requests for that. So we will continue to look how best to do that in a way that makes sense for everyone, especially for the ALGO community. So that's a work in progress.
All right, I'm one of those ticket holders, so we'll see if I'm the big winner. It's like Willy Wonka. You're the new modern Willy Wonka. I'm just waiting to see if I got a golden ticket like everybody else. All right, Aaron, talk to us about TEAL 4 upgrades. What's that mean for you? What's that change for you? How does your world get better, or does it?
So I talked about this quite extensively with the Algorand developer office hours that I did a few weeks back. But essentially the TEAL 4 upgrade is quite a considerable upgrade from TEAL 3. So I was working with Algorand right when TEAL 2 was a thing. So I've seen how the progression of the language has, I guess, like gone along up until this point. And I got to tell you, like TEAL 4, some of the things that Jason Weathersby from Algorand was telling me that it would come out with nearly made me jump out of my seat, basically, when he was telling me it. And as it came out on the beta net, I was just so excited. Like a lot of the things, like being able to use 512-bit numbers, like that was a massive thing for our platform because, 64-bit numbers, it's great and all, but when you're dealing with decimal place precision as large as ours for our token, like we got like 6 decimal places of precision with with the total supply of 10 billion tokens, you're starting to hit that cap pretty quickly, and any sort of multiplication with that basically becomes impossible. So just the arithmetic alone has already been a massive improvement, but by far the biggest improvement that we've had so far is the ability of being able to have subroutines and being able to jump up and down the script. Basically, what that has allowed us to do is we have been able to greatly improve our security with the most optimal amount of code possible. So essentially, back if anyone who looks through our contracts, on the ALGO Explorer or anything like that, you'll start to see like there's a lot of security checks, a lot of redundant security checks that are spread throughout the contract. You're like, oh, it's kind of repeated. You could have put that all on one thing, but now you can because you can jump backwards and forwards between the scripts. So you can have one giant safety function, which is something that we've actually implemented, and you can actually see that code on the developer office hours, where it just allows us, to check the security more robustly and gives us a lot more peace of mind as well, without having to have such, massively intense, or as Fabrice says, you got to code in a very defensive style with Algorand. So this sort of allows us to have that peace of mind of, okay, now we've included the security function, we can just focus a lot more, instead of on the security, we can focus a lot more on the actual, the actual functionality of the code and what we actually want to deliver to the people. Because one of the biggest things that we were suffering from with our original contracts, and some of the things we had to compromise on, which the community still talks a little bit about today, which new contracts coming out will blow those problems out of the water, is essentially a lot of the compromises we had to make were because of TEAL 3's limitations and the contract sizes and the redundant checks and everything else. But that's not a problem with TEAL 4. So in terms of a user experience, it's going to enable us to deliver better end solutions to our fellow yldy holders. And basically, it makes our lives easier as developers as well. And not just me, I can imagine it's going to make everyone in the development community's lives easier, being able to build out more comprehensive and more complicated and sophisticated programs. And that's why you're going to start seeing now, I think, a lot more complicated programs. Like I can imagine a lot more AMMs and staking pools and stuff will start to emerge. And because it's becoming a lot more like a more traditional programming language with the ability of subroutines and everything else, it's going to be a lot more inviting to new people coming in.
Excellent. Yeah, the barrier to entry is going to be reduced quite a bit.
Significantly.
And that also enables auto compounding. And I suspect that, from the consumer, from the hodler's standpoint, that's a big deal for us. And I think probably what's going to happen is we're going to have to withdraw from one staking pool and we're going to migrate to a new staking pool. Is that likely how it's going to happen?
So that's pretty much how it's going to be with the migration from TEAL 3 to TEAL 4. but yeah, like the benefits of migrating to these pools, it's going to be chalk and cheese. Like you won't have to, claim every single day unless you absolutely want to. The ability of the auto compounding for, same token staking pools like our yldy to yldy pools as it stands, that'll simplify things a lot more. So it basically means it'll become a lot more like a set and forget pool, which is what we hoped to originally intend to do, but wasn't able to quite deliver. And also with the multi-staking asset pools. So like, you stake one token, you get a different token in return. It's instead of like, as it currently stands, we're not going to be using the global staking share, the staking share system anymore because, of all the faults that have been identified with that particular type of staking program. We've identified new ones, which, enable things like, so the user's rewards won't be drained, for instance. Basically, like once you've accrued them, they are yours permanently. They are not going to go anywhere. No new user can jump in the pool and lay claim to that. So a whole bunch of improvements with the latest TEAL 4 contracts, and somehow they are smaller and more optimized than the current ones that are already out there because of all the new features that TEAL 4 has enabled us to utilize.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting. So, yldy is like we've in the community have almost gamified it. We've got these websites now. We got Josh LMAO. We've got yldy.info where we could track like who's staking what, and there's some gamification because I can time when I claim my rewards, right? Right before it resets, and I might gain like 20 yldy on somebody and maybe like move up the chart a little bit. And so it's interesting that I do that, and a lot of the community does. So I'm not surprised at all that a third of the community has been like fully engaged and went over to opt into Stitch Bob's kind of a drawing over there. I think it's a very engaged community, and I think it's from that perspective. Even when you guys are want feedback, and the community is very giving and forgiving. So that's all fantastic. So you touched on multi-asset staking, I think just a little bit. I heard it in there just a little, but we want to know a little bit more. Like, how does that work?
So basically, it's you have a separate staking token to your reward token. So obviously, with our auto compounding pools, mathematically it doesn't work with having two different tokens, as one was a staking token, one is a reward token. So we're actually utilizing a new mathematical system called a token per share system for that particular type of staking pool. So basically what happens is you stake whatever token needs to be staked. So, if it's like a yldy to whatever X other token gets released in our pool, basically it'll function a lot of the same way as the auto compounding pool, like the behavior of how the user has to interpret it. Like basically you don't really need to touch it after you stake. Once you start accruing rewards, they're permanently yours. But yeah, it's a creative way of working around the fact that you can't auto compound, but you can actually keep accruing rewards at like a nice little linear rate without actually losing out to other people because they're claiming stake to the pool. So it is a massive improvement on the current state of the existing contracts.
Excellent. Okay. I think this next question, I'll lay it out there, and then we can see which one of you wants to take that. So this next question is really about the ALGO to yldy swap that's on the roadmap there for, I think, beginning of next year, right? But I think probably the more interesting thing is now that you've got this partnership with Mexi, are you going to be able to leverage that and ask for or request or influence some different trading pairs? So we might see an ALGO yldy trading pair on Mexi, and is that going to happen before we're able to swap straight through yldy? And is that going to be an atomic swap or an AMM, or how will that work?
Maybe Aaron, you want to talk about the swap, and then I can jump in and just talk about some of the things to do with exchanges and ASAs.
Yeah. So as everyone knows, recently we've announced that we're going to be introducing a swap AMM of our own. We're going to be holding out until TEAL 5 contracts sort of come out for that, because we're in the process of mapping out our functions and everything else, working closely with our auditing partners to make sure that everything is as functionally, I guess, efficient and secure as possible. Essentially, what we're trying to do is we're trying to emulate as much of the Uniswap functionality as we can without having to compromise as much as, say, we would have using TEAL 4, TEAL 3 contracts. But yeah, essentially, I don't really have a lot more to say with the swap pools because we're still in the process of scoping out a lot of the work. We're making some solid progress and some solid groundwork there. Excited to see what new features will be coming out with TEAL 5 as they, keep obviously Algorand's listening to us very closely and as they keep iterating and, moving along. But yeah, so far it's quite promising.
Excellent. Okay.
And I mean, the kind of question you asked is, really like, how do we see more native ASA pairs to trade anywhere, right? And MXC is, has put their hand up as one of the exchanges that looks to want to back the ecosystem. So obviously, Algorand was the first, and then yldy is the sort of second, and then now with the partnership to have many more projects, Algorand-based projects listing, and we know there's a couple in the works, which we won't steal any thunder, but we'll let those teams announce in good time. But we know that there is going to be an expanded ability for ASAs to be traded, there, for example. And I know, like, in discussions, one of the critical things, for any exchange, that is running a business is just going, is there sufficient volume? Is it worth the cost for us to do this? The dev time, the marketing, the implementation and management of, of this specific protocol. And I think, that was a very real question that that we've had to go out there and continue to convince, exchanges and participants in the ecosystem, that it's well worth doing. Algorand is, also is leading the way in that regard, and you sort of see that in all the new exchanges where Algorand's getting listed. We come along, close behind them to say, now that you're familiar with Algorand, let's start doing ASA tokens, and when he's doing ASA tokens, let's list ours. And so, the more that this ecosystem grows, the more that the trading volumes grow, the people buying and using our token in the platform grows, the more that it seems to be, the more likely or more favorable, other exchanges look at, projects like ours for potential listing. And so, it makes sense, given that we have a hugely engaged community that is buying our token and pulling it out and staking it on our platform, that NXC is very happy to facilitate that. And if it makes sense for them to, put up make it even easier for our users to go out, get our token, by having an ALGO pair, that would, I'm sure that, they're commercially minded. I'm sure they'll look to do that. So the more that this ecosystem grows, the more that exchanges like MXC will be happy to put features out to support it. We see them doing that with, with the Avalanche ecosystem now. We know that they're, making it super straightforward for people who are native to Avalanche to be able to do stuff with that ecosystem on MXC. So we see no difference there. And we would love to see that continue to be extended or expanded across, other, exchanges that don't, that are still contemplating whether they want to be listing, projects like ours. So we see that there's a really positive trend there. We see we've we've put a very good business case to these companies to take ASA projects seriously.
It's all about the money.
Yeah. I mean, it's inescapable from their point of view. When we talk about it, that it's from a user point of view. We want to have a place for our users to do stuff, and they see a hugely engaged user group, and they're happy to build stuff around it. So it's virtuous in that regard. But if we were, there is examples of ASA tokens out there that are listed on other exchanges that just don't have the same community that we do. And for a long time, there was companies that were comparable that they would look at and say, well, this is an ASA token listed on another exchange. Maybe it's not going so well. So, we'll be more skeptical with yldy, but thankfully that's changed. It's a healthy it's a healthy virtuous circle at the moment. We expect that to continue.
Yeah,
and
I think it's going the right way.
Yeah, exactly. And there's not there's not a mad rush to do any of it. I mean, I think we've like pretty publicly seen what happens when projects sort of, or exchanges don't sort of take the time to think through how to integrate. It can they can sort of, we've seen one big delay with a partner that we've been, had a potential to list on, or an offer to list on for a number of months, but it hasn't yet come to fruition.
Who's running your Twitter account, by the way?
That's a team effort.
Okay. Strong Twitter effort. I like it.
Yeah, I think it is. We have a personality. I think it's been said before, and it's been, I'm sure it'll be said again. We have a firm view of where we want to go and where we think this ecosystem goes, and we think that everyone in this ecosystem deserves to be taken, much more seriously than potentially we have been, and that there is going to be there should be, we're very happy to be strong advocates and calling stuff out where we think that standards are slipping, or we aren't being held to the standard with which this community deserves. So we're quite forthright, we're quite cheeky. I mean, we're Australian, so joking is pretty much in our DNA. So we might often have to kind of explain away any cultural differences for our kind of forthright humor that might come across as sort of blunt elsewhere in other parts of the world. But we try our best, and we certainly are very responsive and happy to explain any aspect of how we communicate.
Sure. All right. We've got just a few more minutes here. I wish, so I don't know if I showed all the audience, but I didn't get to the questions on page 3 or 4. We didn't get nearly as many of the questions done. But one last question. Earlier today, I ran a lunch kind of roundtable, and the question was, what is needed to trigger mass adoption? I didn't have anybody there with anybody from the DeFi space. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, and 2 or 3 minutes, what's needed to trigger mass adoption? Is it easier developments? Is it easier interface? Is it something else? What is it?
I mean, our worldview for mass adoption comes from where are the users that look and feel the most like our grand users currently. They're either playing around in other ecosystems, and just as you said before, need to be shown the value proposition of our grand. If you go and mint an NFT on Ethereum, and it costs you $600 to mint it or buy it, you kind of start wondering maybe this is not the best use of funds.
Let me rethink some life decisions here.
Yeah, so there is a whole suite of products that when built out, as we've seen with the few products we've launched, that you can get adoption from the DeFi community. So mass adoption for the DeFi community means bringing people over from other ecosystems as the first proposition. The second proposition is going out and going, well, where else do the people who are playing around in DeFi, what else are they doing? And we know that they're a big proportion. There's sort of 400 million, I think was the latest stat, 400 million people monthly actively playing games and watching esports and doing stuff like that. All very comfortable online. And so we go, well, how do we build products that make it so straightforward to bring people over? And so, we're on our mission to go and do exactly that. And so, that means easy interface. You basically want a thing that is valuable without needing to demonstrate that it is a crypto thing, right? It's just a tech product that is, it is easy, intuitive, and adds, delight and value to the users that wish to use it. And, we think that the products we have definitely seem to do that currently, and we look to kind of refine them and make it even easier for others to onboard onto yldy from anywhere in the world, irrespective of where they're crypto native or gamers or whatnot. But very, very directly, for us on the next 6 to 12 months is targeting those two cohorts and bringing as much of them over onto our platform and into the ecosystem as we can.
All right.
And Aaron, I think Aaron's Aaron definitely has a view on what TEAL 5 and 4 will mean for developers as well.
Yeah, I think I summarized it pretty well before, but yeah, it's from a developer perspective for mass adoption, Algorand is definitely heading in the right direction with their new iterations in the programming languages. And I'm also really keen to see like how all the layer 2 languages like Reach and everything, how they start to perform as more adoption and more people start to move on to Algorand. But yeah, right now in the developer space, it's very much a hot seat. New tech is being implemented all the time. There's always new announcements, new exciting things. So, it's definitely not an ecosystem where you can just sort of do what you do and be complacent. You always got to be learning an Algorand.
You got to be on your toes. All right. Well, you two have kept me on my toes today. Great answers to all my questions. I hope I challenged you just a little bit. You two have been incredibly gracious with your time. I wish we had more of it. We'll have to do this again sometime. We keep these relatively short here. But for all those folks watching AlgoFest, this was the prime time. I think we got three more interviews. Seb, Aaron, appreciate your time. I hope you get to watch a couple of these other interviews, and best of luck for yldy, and I'm rooting for you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Cheers,
guys.
dude.